Hello, folks. I thought I'd make a video about agnostic atheism, or rather, agnosticism by itself, period. Um, I was raised Christian, grew up going to random churches, moving around a lot, and it was when I was 14 I started asking certain questions. At that age, I was never much of a science buff. Still, I'm starting to try to read Dawkins and stuff like that, but I'm still not that much of a science buff. So it wasn't questions about evolution or anything like that. It was just questions like, well, if the devil was God, then what would that do to our morality? You know, just questions like, if we get our morality from God, then is it really moral, or is it just a matter of might making right? And I don't know if I thought exactly like that at that age, but I thought pretty damn close to it, and I wondered about stuff like that. So, those were the kinds of questions that I asked when I was younger. Just stuff like morality, and a metaphor that I used to use when I was younger was the idea of being on this gigantic chessboard. And that all humanity was either God or the devil was just a pawn, or a knight, or a bishop, at most a queen. But we were expandable. It didn't really matter about any one of us. Yeah. And I still have the idea that if there's a God, I have a hard time imagining him really. And I say him because of the way I was raised. But hell, if there's a God, I wouldn't know what the hell it was. I laugh at anybody who thinks they would. Yeah. But if there was a God, then I have a hard time imagining that God will look at any of us humans with any real compassion or caring. To me, the power between one individual and the other would be so damn different. Such a huge fucking gulf that I have a hard time imagining such a being would honestly care about any of us. You know, I go and step on an ant or smush an ant when it's trying to crawl on me, and I don't feel any guilt for it. I do not feel bad about killing ants. It's only if I stop to think about the fact that my food came from pigs that I honestly give a crap, and even then I don't care that much, to be honest. Um, you know, President Obama killed a fly on television, and everybody laughed at PETA when they got all pissed off about it. And to me, that's what human beings would be to such a being if such a being existed. We would be flies. We would be ants. You know. So I have a hard time imagining such a being, if it existed, would honestly care about us. Now, the other thing is just, there was a being outside of space and time who created everything, and that means he created me, right? And if he created me, if he formed me, then how would I ever know anything? Hmm? If we have a being that's capable of creating everything, doing everything, being all-powerful, how can we know anything? Isn't part of that power the ability to put thoughts in our heads, maybe create the world around us so that we perceive it in a certain way? You know? If I'm a created being inside of a created world, then I think that makes me a soul caught in the Matrix, you know? I mean, if I'm created and the world around me is created, then how can I know what's real? Or maybe that's the whole point. Maybe there is nothing that is real. Maybe I'm not real, maybe nothing else is either. And it's hard for me to throw my mind all the way back to when I was really agnostic about everything. But the point is that if there was a God who was all-powerful, then then I don't believe I could ever know anything. I don't see how I could know anything. I don't see how anyone could know anything if such a being existed. Of course, as an atheist, I don't know how to completely rule out the idea of such a God. Yeah. So, either side of the fence, theistic or atheistic, I'm still agnostic. When I was a theist, I believed, yeah, there could be God, but how the hell do I know who's Christian? How the hell do I know that the Christian God is the real God? You know, and I can never answer that question. Honestly, looking at it now, I have a hard time imagining that even if there was a God, that it would be the Christian God. Because like I said already in this video, I don't think God would care about us. I really don't. I think at the very least, at the very most, actually, slip of the tongue, at the very most, we would be playthings for God. And that's how come I can believe in the trickster God. I could believe in a God that finds us amusing and likes to do things to us just to amuse himself. And I could foresee God caring about us in that way, but God caring about us the way I care about my mother? No. I couldn't see that. I honestly could not see that, or believe in that. So, I mostly tend to be atheistic anymore, not because I'm still any more of a scholar when it comes to evolution. Of course, I don't think that really matters. I think if there was a God who was able to create the world, create the universe, create human thought, create human feeling, create everything that's been created, and there's been a shitload of it, that God would have no problem creating a system such as evolution, or even an event like the Big Bang. So that all science could be true, and there could still be a theistic worldview worth considering. But if such a thing were true, I would tend to believe it would be deistic or trickster. But I tend to be leaning towards atheism nowadays, towards the idea that there is no God. Mostly just because it gets rid of all those questions I have. You know, if there was a God, I don't know how I could believe or know anything. Yeah. If there was a God, I don't know why the world couldn't have been created 5 minutes later. I mean, if there was a God, I don't know why the world couldn't be created 5 minutes before now. And everything just set up in such a way as to lead me to believe that it wasn't. I see no answer to that question. So I tend to be atheist just to get away from questions like that. Because when your mind is filled with questions like that, it kind of fucks with you a little bit. But, I don't know, I felt like putting something up here about agnosticism, putting something up here about agnostic worldview. So, that's been my experiences, even if it's not everyone else's. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.